Well, hi there, friends. So good to see you all on this Monday morning here on Up with KREM. I'm Channing Curtis. Let's get things started with a look at the forecast with Nicole Hernandez. She's filling in for meteorologist Thomas Patrick today. And Nicole, we're starting the work week off with a bit of a girls show. I love this vibe this morning. We miss the boys, but this is fun.
I know. They'll be back. It'll be okay. For now, we're holding down for it perfectly fine. No, while we have a fun morning going on, we do have some rain to talk about this evening. For now, though, look at this lookout over Coeur d'Alene. It's so funny how quickly the sunrise moves up at this time of year. We are still an hour and 9 minutes away from official sunrise at this point. So it is still pitch black out there, but what you can't see is that we are partially cloudy right now. It is 54 degrees here in Spokane. Across the region, some places now dropping down into the 40s, Coeur d'Alene, Wenatchee. Most Lake Sandpoint, you guys are right there on the edge of 40s and 50s. Not crazy cold, but not crazy warm either. As we look forward to the rest of the day, we're going to warm up to the mid to high 60s, depending on where you're at, which, while that doesn't seem super warm because we're coming off of summer, is actually above average for this time of year.
At 6:02 this morning, we are continuing our coverage of the ongoing vandalism in the Perry District, targeting members and businesses in the LGBTQ community. Over the weekend, the Rainbow Crosswalk that was just cleaned up was vandalized once again. Now take a look. You can see the new vandalism through these videos. Just over a week ago, the Odyssey Center was vandalized 3 different times within the span of just a few days and spray painted with slurs and paint that was poured over their Rainbow Crosswalk. Then less than a week after that, and just a few doors down, the Wishing Tree bookstore was also vandalized.
Sadly, I think it is getting on people's, not nerves, but it's making people a little tense.
The ongoing vandalism caught the attention of Spokane City Council member Zach Sapone. He says this is a deliberate attack and that he plans on doing something about it.
The LGBTQ community and the neighborhood at large now is kind of under attack.
Police said earlier this week that they are not investigating the vandalism as a hate crime. KREM 2 did reach out to police to see if anything has changed, but we have not heard back. Now tonight, the Spokane City Council is set to introduce a resolution reaffirming Spokane's commitment to inclusion and belonging. The resolution is sponsored by Zapone and Councilmember Ryan Ulrich. If passed, the resolution will call on council to investigate all credible reports of hate crime incidents and threats against marginalized communities. It would also add an agenda item to change a code that concerns governing hate crimes to clarify that the law applies to public property and places. Today, the Kootenai County Board of Commissioners is holding a public hearing to discuss public safety funding. Commissioners will discuss funding for the new Kootenai County Justice Center. The expansion would add new courtrooms and more working space for county employees. Last week, commissioners approved $10 million for the sheriff's office. $9 million of that money will go to completing new jail pods for the county jail, and the other $1 million will be used to help the sheriff's office expand into the city of Hayden. The meeting starts at 6 tonight and is open to the public. This morning, a ceasefire is being discussed in Israel to allow humanitarian aid to be delivered to Gaza from Egypt. But right now, it's not clear if that ceasefire will actually happen. In the meantime, authorities here in the U.S. say the conflict in the Middle East may have led to the targeting and tragic killing of a child on American soil. CBS's Naomi Ruckham has the latest.
More Israeli ground troops have moved closer to Gaza. Military officials say a Hamas commander was killed over the weekend by airstrikes. The U.S. Embassy says there are reports that a border crossing between Egypt and Gaza will open to allow in desperately needed humanitarian aid, but the situation is unpredictable.
Gaza is running out of water and electricity.
In a CBS 60 Minutes interview, President Biden said Israel has to go after Hamas.
Hamas is a bunch of cowards. They're hiding behind the civilians.
A U.S. official tells CBS News Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has invited the president to Israel and that both sides have discussed the possibility of that visit. Though today, Secretary of State Antony Blinken is back in Israel after meeting with multiple leaders in the Middle East over the weekend. Flights carrying Americans returning from Israel landed in Florida, New York, and Chicago.
I got to the gate, I sat down, and I started crying.
But in a nearby Chicago suburb, a memorial is growing after authorities say a knife-wielding man attacked his tenants, injuring a Palestinian mother and killing her 6-year-old son. The sheriff's office says the child was stabbed 26 times.
How can anyone do that to a little boy? I can't.
In a statement, President Biden expressed condolences to the child's family, adding, quote, "This horrific act of hate has no place in America." Naomi Ruckham, CBS News.
Israel may be more than 6,000 miles away, but yesterday afternoon, people in Spokane came together to stand in solidarity with those affected by the destruction and war in the Middle East. People prayed and called for peace in Israel. A rabbi from the Chabad of Spokane County spoke to the images of death and destruction that we're seeing from the other side of the world. He says that he knows that there are people in Spokane's Jewish community likely hurting and in pain.
Every single generation, there's those who seek to annihilate us, to kill us. And there were two things that kept us. One is Jewish unity. And this evening, it's our brothers and sisters, fellow Americans, who are standing here together with us. And the second thing that always stood with us is our faith in God.
The rabbi says people can support Israel by donating to families being affected and who are broken up by the war. In the meantime, our Janelle Finch also spoke to people within Spokane's Muslim community to get their perspective on what's happening and their call for peace.
There's been so much loss of life in that part of the world already that I wish we could all live in peace in the Holy Land, because that area is very, very special to all of us, whether we're Christian, whether we're Muslim, whether we're Jewish.
Muslims for Community Action and Support CEO Nagmana Shirazi says heartbreak and loss aren't just felt in the Middle East. She says being Muslim in Spokane has brought her face to face with grief.
I have friends here in Spokane who have lost a grandson and granddaughter, so this hits home.
For her, she wants her Jewish neighbors to know they're supported and loved.
We have learned a lot from each other, and we have learned to love each other very, very much. We are very close.
And for her community, she says she doesn't want the international conflict to divide Spokane.
This kind of thing obviously becomes a huge issue when you have to stand up and say, you know, I stand against this or I stand against that. It does create a little bit of conflict, but you have to understand that since we're living in the United States, we are all together.
MCAS Executive Director Karen Stromgren echoes the calls for unity and peace.
I just feel like, you know, this can create a whole other situation of divisiveness, more hate, and we don't need more hate. We need to be a united community.
Stromgren says the work at MCAS serves people facing injustice in Spokane. It's one way she's putting in the groundwork to bring Spokane closer together.
We're here to provide support. We're here to pray with you. We're here. We're always here.
Stromgren and Shirazi say they're hoping for conflict resolution sooner rather than later.
I just see a loss of life on both sides, and it's absolutely horrible.
For less Israeli and Palestinian lives to be caught in the crossfire,
it just hurts a lot.
And for peace in the Middle East. Janelle Finch, KREM 2 News.
Well, remember earlier I said you can't really see it outside because it's dark, but we're a little bit cloudy. Well, here's a look at what that cloud cover looks like on our radar right now. Excuse me. You can see partial cloud cover moving its way through our region at the moment. As we look forward, we do have a low pressure system that's moving its way closer into the coast, closer into the Canada area, but ahead of that, it's going to push some moisture towards us. You can see it starts to hit the west side by this morning into later this afternoon, and then it starts to move its way quickly across the whole state here, hitting us this evening, giving us a little bit of rain, but that quick movement of this low pressure system means that we're really not going to get all that much rain, just couple showers here this evening likely, and then maybe a few through our Tuesday, but for the most part it's pretty small. What it mostly does is really cools us down for Tuesday, so we'll talk more about that in just a few minutes.